there's a definite, in Ontario anyways, I could speak for, there's a definite housing shortage. And it can be difficult. It could take you, it took me this place that I'm living in now, took me 5 months of searching. And I had to live at home for a while. It was a very difficult, trying winter especially. And, but if you persevere and you keep looking and you keep trying, you know, there are things out there, and that's what the resources here at the Y are for, is to help you and to help you get through that. And I must say that they were very helpful to me here.
Well, the pressure can be overwhelming when you're searching for housing, because first of all, you're looking for a place to live. You need a place to live. That's the #1 importance in your life, right? That's the basis of everything you build off of. First thing, you get a place to live, then you find a job. Or maybe you find schooling, or whatever you plan on doing. Your decision is your own, right? But I find that emotionally, it was really overwhelming for me, because as the date approached and got closer and closer, I felt like, oh, what am I gonna do? I have to be out of here, and I don't even have a place to go after this, right? And I have all these plans. I wanna start school, I wanna get a job, I wanna move to Owen Sound, and how do I do this? So I had to sit down and really calm myself, because when you're overwhelmed, it's hard to think. You can't concentrate, you can't make a plan, and you definitely can't look out for what the best ideas are.
It was definitely a challenge, and some of the challenges were definitely my age, and whether I would be able to pay my rent, whether I would be responsible. The amount of landlords and apartments I had to go through were at least 10 to 15. The challenges to meet the landlord's expectations were, again, my age. They didn't like my age. The fact that I wasn't working full time. I didn't really have like references. Just kind of getting your first job, getting your first apartment. It's difficult because you don't really have much to go by past wise that they can look over and go by.
I was against the idea of moving. And my family pretty much sat me down and said, "Mother, you have to do it." And it was a hard decision to leave my home, and I'd never rented, and I didn't really know anything about renting, so that was a new experience for me.
Yes, I'd had a much different life than May, and I had rented before, so really I wasn't a bit apprehensive, and I liked the unit, and I was glad to give up the responsibility of the house.
It's a hit and a miss sometimes. I've had good landlords, I've had bad landlords, but you know, as long as you do your part, pay your bills, make sure everything's up to date, and have a good communication skills with your landlord. But I've always had success, but I've had some downfalls at one point in my life.
I overcome the challenges by just not giving up. And I had a time limit when I had to be out of my house. So I really couldn't just take my time. I just had to keep fighting and just keep going. My name is Renee. I lived in this area for 30 years.
So the main challenges in finding or maintaining housing in Grey-Bruce County would be there is just a lack of rental properties. A lot of rental units are pretty expensive and it's not sustainable. And then another one would probably be really high utility rates because it is a rural area. So a lot of people can't afford their hydro and their rent at the same time. And the rates just keep going up, and income does not. My name is Rachel, and I've been with the Y Community Initiatives for about 3.5 years. Y Housing helps people find and maintain safe, affordable housing in their community. So we cover emergency shelter in Grey and Bruce County. So if someone's completely homeless, we set them up with emergency shelter for a short period of time. We also help people find affordable housing and help people who are at risk of homelessness with housing searches or applying for funds through other community agencies.
My name's Robert Stewart Couch. And I've lived here on and off for almost 45 years.
My name's Kelly Earhart, and I've been in town for a year.
Yeah, my name's Misty, and I've been living in the area for about 10 years.
I'm May Smith, and I live in Chesley. And I came to Chesley when I was 8 years old. 88 years.
I'm Betty Daniels, and I live in Chesley.
Hi, my name's Jared Kishik. I've been in the area for about a couple months. I went to school and everything around here, so, and I'm just moving from Wyerton as well.
When you're wanting to live somewhere, you want it to be your home. You want it to be safe. You want it to be happy. You want it to be warm. You don't want to be cold. I don't know. It's hard looking for a place. You know what I mean? Like it's not easy. My name is Tanya. I've lived in Bruce Grey for almost 5 years now.
If somebody comes in who's homeless, our main goal would be to find them somewhere to stay that night and then assign them to a housing worker who would support them to find affordable housing within the next couple of days. So somebody who's just searching for affordable housing in the area, we could help them with housing listings, help them with specific things to say when they're speaking to landlords, how to show up to a viewing appropriately, things like that.
The best way to make a good first impression with a landlord and be prepared, in my opinion, would be make sure you show up and look professional. Be well groomed, well cut. Speak concisely and have a good vocabulary. Don't be swearing. Don't be slurring. Don't show up smoking cigarettes. Don't, you know what I mean? Show that you're a responsible person and that you are going to respect this dwelling that you're renting.
My name's Jen, and I've been in Owen Sound 3 years. I moved here with my daughter. First impressions, I think, are extremely important. It's a pretty competitive market renting. I think it's important to show up clean and dressed relatively well, to have a good speech. Rehearse your dialogue if you have to. You're going to be living in these people's home, and this is the only. Your first impression here is really your only chance to see them seeing you in their home. It's about finances and things like that as well, but having a good dialogue, asking the questions, letting them know that you're confident, that you wouldn't be shy to interact with them if there was a problem or a maintenance issue. They need to know that you're going to be maintaining the house. So just coming across a little bit educated, a little bit informed when you get to that interview with them. Have all of your work ready, all of your, like have your bank, a check. You'll probably have to leave a check. If you know they're going to do a credit check and you happen to have one, like you could have those things prepared. If you don't work and your parents are subsidizing you or going to help pay, or your aunt or your uncle, have a letter of intent.
Voice your opinion. Don't let them talk you down. You have a right to speak. You're not alone, and you should speak your mind.
If I was helping someone looking for a place, I would definitely tell them to take their time. Don't rush through it. Definitely don't be afraid. Don't hesitate to ask the landlord questions. Look for things around the house. You know, don't just look at the big picture. Look for little things. See it again if you need to. Don't hesitate to ask them. Don't go for the first place that will let you move in there. Definitely look, because you don't want to make snap decisions, and you don't want to regret moving there. And it'll hinder you later on when you want to find a place if you have a whole bunch of different addresses. It's, make a home, find somewhere, have standards, definitely.
I think going back to the planning, I think I wasn't the best at planning. When I was younger, I wanted to teach, and I went overseas as a volunteer, and it kind of left me as what I would call a displaced person. So I came back to Canada, and I wasn't prepared for these difficulties that we've gone through about renting places, and sometimes I ended up in places that were substandard housing with heating and things like that. So if you can avoid it, plan things out, and try not to leave yourself stuck or homeless, because it's not pretty. And it can be very, very rough on you, especially if you're mentally ill or whatever. It's stability is very important. And then later on, you know, people sometimes are successful with mental illnesses, but the housing, I think, is a very important part to stabilizing people and being able for them to have a nice life in this country.
No, just keep trying. If not, you know, you get knocked back, you get knocked down, but you get back up. It's just like life. Life's difficult, but you know what? You just gotta go ahead and think positive and, you know, try your hardest.
Try to never have it like timelined so that you become desperate. I found a lot of my experiences were you can get this fantastic list of what to ask the landlord, so you're always doing the right thing and, you know, making sure everything is clear. But I find that there's a lot of resistance when you're in that situation, that you feel intimidated by the landlord. And if you ask too many questions, I mean, sure, you could go to court and it could be biased or whatever, but that's a lot of, again, it's a lot of work to do on top of what you're already doing. So I would say make sure that you have a very fair timeline. Always have your first and last and at least half of your next ready to go. Be financially ready, just everything you should be ready. If you have to move in a fix, I guess just know right from the start to finish that you moved in a fix, and you'll learn a lot of lessons during that fix. But I think the only remedy is to be completely prepared so that you can actually negotiate a positive relationship with your landlord instead of always feeling sketchy, like, oh, I don't want to bring it up because, you know, he could kick me out at any moment. For me, it's just communication. That the only thing that you could do is build positive communication.
The resources I used to find affordable housing was, number one, the internet. And then secondly, I got in contact with my Ontario Works worker at the time, who really helped me out a lot. He told me about a bunch of different programs that were available and what they could help me out with. I also got in contact with the YMCA up here in Owen Sound, and they gave me a list of housing that was available up here at the time.
We can also help with the applications for last month's rent if somebody has secured housing. And then if it's just a case of somebody who thinks they need to move because they have received an eviction notice or something like that, maybe help mediate a little bit with their landlord if the tenancy can be saved.
Well, there are lots of nice apartments over stores, but they have huge stairways, are very inaccessible. And to find something as accessible on one level was just wonderful. I think, like, you have to take in your physical condition is going to go down likely as you age. I'm 92 now, and I can feel that I can't do what I could do when I moved in here 9 years ago. And you got to think of all those things.
And I feel that if you're in an apartment, you're independent, and yet you have different things around you that helps with that independence.
My name is Ryder. I'm a student at Georgian College. I'm also the president of the Students Association there, and I've been a tenant for the last 15 years. The first thing that a tenant needs to do to have a positive relationship with their landlord is to pay them on time. It is a business. They're not doing it for love of the game. They're doing it because they want to make money. That's their number one concern, getting paid. The second is they don't want to have their property damaged. They don't want to be at a loss, and that comes back to money as well. You need to be respectful and not damage their property. And then another thing would be to be quiet and clean, just because it's very difficult for them to rent out to other people if the other people aren't going to want to live there because of noise or filth.
Yeah, well, your home is your castle, right? And even if you're renting or whatever, that's a lease, and that gives you a place. Keeping the upkeep on it is very important. Cleaning supplies. I always buy cleaning supplies as soon as I move in, and clean the place thoroughly. You know, then that's not the landlord's responsibility. That's the tenant's responsibility to keep the place cleanly. I find with neighbors, as being a musician and a professional DJ, sometimes I listen to loud music. I try and know my neighbors, and if it's a bad time for them, I turn it down, or I put headphones on, things like that. Showing respect to your neighbors and your landlord and your community is important.
Look for things. I mean, you're living there. You want to make sure that the windows work, that the baseboards are okay. So my message would be just take it slow. Don't rush anything. This is where you want to live and you don't want to have to keep going.
Communication is key between a tenant and a landlord as well. If there's something that either party isn't doing, it's best to just talk it out before it becomes an issue. You want to be the tenant that you would want to rent to as a landlord. If you can recognize any behavior that you're doing and you don't care, then you're going to have to deal with the repercussions of that. And that could mean losing a good spot to live.
The housing program is such an important program because it helps people find safe, affordable housing, which many people take for granted, and it is a basic human right.
My advice for someone looking for a place would just not to give up. Ask lots and lots of questions and don't settle. And you are your best person to fight for, so just keep fighting for yourself.